Hey everybody, it's your girl Nell, and welcome to another episode of Simply Nell's Tiny Studio. Welcome to the Tiny Studio. If you have not already liked, shared, and subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. If you really you're not really sure of whether or not you want to subscribe to the channel, and I understand that, at least hit the like button. Help your girl Nell out. Thank you so much for watching. Listen, I had to come on today because I had something else planned to talk about, but I wanted to talk about something that is near and dear to my heart. I wanted to talk about let me go ahead and fix this lighting a little bit. Okay. That may be a little better. It's interesting trying to get these lights together in the tiny studio. But anyhow, I want to talk about something that is near and dear to my heart, and that is homelessness. In my home city of Detroit, Michigan, there was a situation that happened 2 days ago, and it's still unfolding. A young lady by the name of Tatiana Williams was homeless. She's been homeless since November. And on, I want to say Monday or Tuesday, she pulled into the Hollywood Casino parking structure. And I'm guessing she pulled there for safety reasons. And she pulled into the parking structure in a van with her 5 children, plus her mother and her 2 siblings. And they were all living in the van and had been living in their van or in the van since November of last year. When she got ready to wake the children up for school, she, to her horror, discovered that two of her 5 children, were deceased. More than likely, they died from hypothermia or they froze to death. It's very cold in the city of Detroit, in the state of Michigan, this time of year. And the unfortunate thing is that the children suffered. Now, when the Detroit Police Department gave a press conference, I believe it was today is Thursday, I believe it was Tuesday, when they gave had the press conference, the Detroit Police Department admitted that Tatiana had called them several times to notify them of her situation and to ask for resources for help. She was currently looking for a job. Had her children lived, she would have started a new job today. She said in an interview with a local news station, that she did her best in finding resources, but she couldn't find any resources suitable, or the resources that she found, there weren't any available beds for her and her 5 children. She went to family and friends for assistance, but they told her they could not help her because she had too many kids. I believe that's what she said. The exact quote was, she had too many kids, so friends and family did not want to take her in. And when they did, it was too much for them. And so she eventually had to live, in several motels or several rooms, and then eventually migrated to the van. This is a really heartbreaking story to talk about. When you get on social media, these couch advocates, people who, I wouldn't associate with in my real life because, they lack intelligence. They lack reading comprehension skills. They're not the brightest of the brightest bunch on the internet, but these keyboard warriors brought out something in me where I am infuriated at how judgmental people really are about this young lady. Then last night, the father of 3 of her children did an interview with local television news, and he said some bull that I was like, I was completely taken aback. He said something about how she didn't, how Tatiana did not tell him that she and the kids were homeless. How Tatiana told him that she was homeless, he would have been able to get help for her. He said that, she could have went to anybody. She could have went to his family who lived around the corner from where she lived. Okay, I guess this was like before she was evicted. He said that she could have went to them and received help or assistance. He said that when he interacted with Tatiana, she would say, "Hey, I need you to get your kids." And he said, "Well, I was working. I was working. And so and I'm quoting him, I was working. I had to work. And when she called me and I was at the gym to tell me about the kids, blah, 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 blah." Okay. And so that really also pissed me off really badly, because once again, it's a situation where you have a parent, a mother who is struggling to care for children, finds herself in a very disastrous situation, and then everyone around her wants to condemn her. Okay? When something tragic happens or when tragedy strikes, then everyone wants to point the finger and say what a lousy mother she was. When the young lady said, "Hey, I'm sorry, I tried." And according to the Detroit Police Department, indeed, she did try. She did everything that she knew to do, including the fact that she drove the van into a parking structure that had cameras and that she probably believed was safe for her, her mom, and the kids. Okay? That's the hallmark of a good mother. Instead of just being out there on the streets like that in your car, when anybody can come up to your car, knock the windows out, yank you and your kids out, steal the vehicle, all kind of stuff. So that right there, being inside of that parking structure, showed me that she was doing the best that she could possibly do. And then the evidence from the Detroit Police Department and other people have come forward and said that they have met this young lady at different job fairs and things of that nature. They have said that she had told them that she was in a precarious situation and that she was looking for a way out of that situation, that she needed help. Okay? Several people have come forward and said this. To hear the father of her children basically blame her and dump the blame for the death of his children in her lap, it's just preposterous to me. It's just ridiculous. And to see men and women, to see my brothers and sisters back that shit up and then point their fingers at this young sister, it really, really bothers me. Because see, here's the thing, and I'm going to get raw with you. So, hang in there with me. Listen, when we talk about homelessness and we talk about mothers and fathers and children being homeless, having to sleep in their cars, listen, Tatiana isn't the only person in the city of Detroit right now sleeping in her car. Tatiana Williams is not the only person sleeping in her car with her children. She's not the only one doing that. I guarantee you there are hundreds of families who are sleeping in their cars or in their vans or in their SUVs, trying to keep warm in the states where it is below zero. It is freaking cold. It is winter time. Okay, the resources, and a lot of people like to throw that around. Oh, there are resources. The resources available to people who are homeless are very, very thin. Okay, the resources I'll say it again, resources for homeless people in various cities across the United States, they are not plentiful at all. If you do not get to a place where there is an available bed, you will not be able to sleep in warmth. or comfort. If you arrive to certain centers, all right, there are certain centers which are dangerous for women and children to reside. Did you know that? Okay, so not all resources that are available to the homeless are beneficial to the homeless. Let's just be honest. Let's just be honest about it. Okay, and how would I know? Neil, how would you know? Because I was once homeless too. Me and my husband, due to a failure or an error on the part of the city of Detroit, we found ourselves homeless. We found ourselves without a house, ass out, and sleeping in our car. And I only had one child at the time. One child. Just one. And the effort and the humility that it took for me to ask people, can we stay with you until we get our situation together where we can go ahead and get an apartment? The humility that it took to ask people, can we live with you? And the rejection that happened. And let me tell you something about friends. Let me tell you a little bit something about friends and family. Friends and family will fuck you every single time. Yes. Yes, indeed. Indeed. Friends and family, sometimes they are not a resource. So when people are saying on the internet, well, did she have family? Or did she have friends? What's her name? Tatiana said, yeah, I have family and friends. But they told me I couldn't stay with them because I had too many kids. She had 5 kids. When I was homeless, I had 1 kid. Just 1 child. My husband and I worked. I was a college student. My husband worked. Okay, well, we needed, because we had invested all of our savings into a program that the city of Detroit had called nuisance abatement. And this is where you find a house that's abandoned. The city approves it. And then you go into the process of fixing it up to live in it. My husband and I were a part of that program. All right. And the city of Detroit, when we got ready, we went into this house. We started fixing it up. We invested all of our savings into this house. Okay. All of our savings into building, into rehabbing this home, only to find out that the city of Detroit had screwed up and approved a home that they did not own. So we had to find a place to store all of our items because the owner of the home was like, yo, this is our property. It's still in our name. So we had to quickly move all of our items out of this home into various areas across the city of Detroit. Some of our stuff was in my grandmother's garage. Some of our stuff or basement. Some of our stuff was in my husband's grandmother's garage or basement. Some of our stuff was at the next door neighbors to the home. Some of our stuff was over there in her garage. Truly. This is what was going on. Then the city of Detroit said, look, if you find another house quickly, we'll make sure you'll be able to get it. Okay, we found another house quickly. We had a little bit of money left. We found another house quickly. Got ready to go over to that house to begin to do the things that you have to do to get it prepared to be habitable. And guess what? 2 days later, that house burned out. So we were truly homeless. Just thinking back on that, just really reliving that right now with you, So that just right there shows you that homelessness happens to the best of us. You could be homeless. You can become homeless for many, many different reasons. It doesn't have to be a situation where you're homeless because of drug addiction or alcohol abuse. You know, it don't have to be that type of situation. It could be something as nuanced as what I just told you of how we became homeless. When you really think about it, most Americans are just one paycheck away from being homeless. And now that we're into the administration of 45, now 47, 34-time convicted felon Donald Trump's presidency, it's going to be a whole lot more people who are going to be homeless, especially when he begins to slash Medicaid, Medicare, and SNAP. There are going to be a whole lot more people out here homeless. So this young lady was doing the best that she could. And as her statement said, she said, I tried. And from what the Detroit Police Department said and other people familiar with her situation, she indeed did try. But she was let down. She was let down by the very city that she pays taxes for or taxes in. She was let down. She was let down by the so-called law enforcement who are supposed to be there to protect and to serve. She was let down by them. She was let down by the local social services, local and state social services organizations. She was really let down. She was let down by her family and her friends, or so-called friends. She was let down by a lot of different organizations, and her children paid the ultimate price for that. Her children paid the ultimate price. Just like my child paid the ultimate price of being homeless or being displaced from her parents because the city fucked up. Or because family and friends felt, oh, well, we don't have the room, we don't have the space to take you in, you and your child. Or let's say when I did find someone to take in my daughter, oh, well, she's been here too long. My husband and I were homeless for, I want to say we were homeless for about 3 weeks. I want to say maybe about 3 weeks. We lived in a shitty ass motel over on 8 Mile in Greenfield called the Embassy Motel. If you know anything about the city of Detroit and you know anything about 8 Mile Road, then of course you know about the Embassy Motel. And that's where my husband and I lived at. While my daughter was on the opposite side of town with family who did not want her to be with them. She was 7 years old. Okay, we lived at the Embassy Motel, and you know what that, if you're from Detroit, you're from the West Side, you're from 8 Mile Road, you know about the Embassy Motel. That was no place for a kid. And we would pick up our daughter, and we would bring her back we would take her out to dinner, and then we would bring her back to the Embassy Motel. Is that any place for a child to be at a motel that is known for, that is known for deviant behaviors and activities? But that's what we did. We would pick up our daughter on the weekends, and we would take her and keep her and bring her to the Embassy Motel. And that's where we would be at. We would go out and do things and come back, and we would be there, lock the door real good, bolt it. And then when it comes to sleeping in your vehicle, we slept in our vehicle for maybe 3 nights. We slept in our vehicle. We slept in our car. We had a Sundance. We had a Plymouth. Was it a Plymouth or was it a Chrysler? I think it was a Plymouth Sundance. We had a Sundance. And you know where we would park our car? At night, we would park our car by people that we knew at the Kingdom Hall, because we were Jehovah's Witnesses, where my husband still is. We would park our car at night, late at night, right around the corner for one of the people that we knew at the Kingdom Hall. And that's how we felt safe. Yep, that's how we felt safe. Is it easy? What's it like to sleep in your car? The first night, you feel like you can do it. You feel like, yeah, I can do it. The second night, you're not so sure. The third night, you're looking for options. And if you have to sleep in your car for more than 3 days or more than 3 nights, you become desperate. Seriously desperate to get out of your situation. Now, on my side, my husband and I, we had a plan. We had a serious plan of what to do. And it wasn't friends or family that helped us with this plan. We were able to find an apartment that a man by the name of Mr. Stubblefield, I know he's probably deceased now because this happened almost 30 something years ago. And he was an older African American man then. But he and his wife, Mrs. Stubblefield, I went to them, I saw the apartment, and I told them what my situation was, that we were living, where we had been living in our car, and then we had moved to a motel, the M&C Motel on 8 Mile Road, and that we were a family of 3. However, our daughter was living with family, and that we wanted to move into this apartment with a purpose. It was a 1-bedroom apartment. We were moving into this apartment for a purpose. The purpose was that I was going to start working 2 jobs. My husband's going to work 2 jobs, and we were going to stack up our money, and then we were going to move into a house. That was our plan, because that's where we came from. We had a house, and then we went through a program with the city of Detroit to buy a house, and was screwed both times. And so that was our intention, to build up our savings to move into another house, to rent another home. And we estimated that we only needed to be there in that apartment for 6 months. That's what we told Mr. Stubblefield and Mrs. Stubblefield. And then privately, my husband and I said, we can, if we work this right, we'll be out of this apartment in 3 months. Because the apartment wasn't a great apartment. It was okay, but it wasn't a great apartment. It was something that would have tied me and him over, because we wouldn't have been there in the first place. If we would have been working all the time, stacking our money, because that was the plan, right? So we went ahead and we got ready to move into this place. And then the bottom fell out. The bottom fell out. Why did the bottom fall out? The bottom fell out because the family that were working, that was supposed to be taking care of our daughter, the family that was keeping our daughter, became unreliable. And I'm just going to leave it there. And so we had to go back to the apartment manager and let them know that we were going to have our daughter come live with us as well, which was against the apartment rules. That their rules were you have to have a 2-bedroom apartment to have children come into the building. But I let them know that this was an emergency, that the plan that we had of only having our daughter with us on the weekends was going to change, that she was going to be living with us full time. And so the couple, the Stubblefields, they told us, we grant you permission, you can do that. And they said, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to get carpet on the floor, because we were on the 2nd level. You're going to get carpet in all the rooms. And they told us what we needed to do to be able to turn that 1-bedroom into a 2-bedroom apartment. And then my guardian angel, which is my guardian angel now, which in the physical form was my great-grandfather. My great-grandfather heard about our situation, and he wrote us a check. He wrote us a check to not only get into the apartment, but to buy the carpeting and all the things that we needed to turn that 1-bedroom into a 2-bedroom for our daughter. And that's what we did. We stayed in that apartment, I think, for maybe 3 years. We lived there. We lived in that apartment for 3 years. And the reason why it became, instead of staying there for 3 months or 6 months, it went into a 3-year period, is because my husband and I decided that I would stay home and, you know, be a full-time mom to our daughter instead of me working, because I had been, laid off. I was working for Chrysler. I had been laid off. And I started working at the hospital, and I got sick. So, the best thing for us to do instead of being a 2-income household was to go ahead and become a 1-income household. And my daughter was, I believe she was 7 or 8 years old at the time. So the best thing for us to do was for me to be home, in the home, and in the apartment. And that's what we did. And we stayed there for about 3 years. But being homeless is a very humbling experience. And yes, we went through the resources, and the resources that the city of Detroit had back in the 90s. I don't know what kind of resources that they have today, but I do know when I needed those resources, they were not there. And the resources that the number of resources wasn't there, and the resources that was present, they were inadequate to be able to take care of my needs, my family's needs. And that's how we ended up in a car, and then at a hotel that was known or infamous for a lot of deviancy. That's how we found ourselves there. When I hear people talk about this young lady and talk about how, she's responsible for her child's death, even though she did everything she could, it makes me very upset, because people were saying the same things about me and my husband, that we were trifling parents and individuals, that we didn't love our children. At the time, we didn't love our daughter, that we didn't care about her. There was even talk of reporting us to Child Protective Services to have our child taken from us and our parental rights taken away from us as well. Okay? That was going on too. All because of a snafu that the city made that had nothing to do with us. But see, that's what happens when you are in a situation where you're homeless and nobody gives a flying fuck about you or yours. Not even your family. Your family and your friends will play in your face each and every time. And that's why my heart goes out to this young lady. And I have to say, compassion. And that's something that's lacking in this world today. It's compassion. It's compassion. When I travel to the city of Detroit, and then I'm gonna get off this line. When I traveled to the city of Detroit last summer, okay, and I've been saying this for a while, the city is great. Okay, but the city where all the greatness happens to be located in the downtown area. The downtown and what they're calling Midtown. Those areas over there, and Corktown. That whole area, and if you're a fan of Detroit Lions, then you've seen the aerial view and the different photography and videography of what the city of Detroit looks like from the aspect of just the downtown area, or Midtown going into the downtown area. It's beautiful. You had different national magazines say or rate Detroit as the number 1 place to live, as the number 1 place for entertainment, as the number 1 place to tour. Okay, and that's great because of the publicity brings in the money. Okay, but the problem is that the money is concentrated in 1 or 2 areas of the city. When you go into the city, when you get into the areas beyond Midtown, when you go into or beyond, let's say the Boston Edison area, when you start going into the city, which is where the Highland Park is, where the first automobile plant in the world or in America was where the Model T first rolled out. When you go into those areas of the city of Detroit, when you start hitting areas beyond the Pontchartrain area where Aretha Franklin's mansion is, when you go into the city, start hitting 6 Mile, 7 Mile, 8 Mile, Connors. We start hitting those areas. Livernois and Puritan, Linwood and Tuxedo, Elmhurst and Glendale, Dexter Avenue and Davidson. What else? Uh 12th Street or Rosa Parks Boulevard. When you start hitting areas like that, which is into the city, Plymouth Road, Livernois, Hazelette, when you start hitting all of those areas, then you get into the heart of the city of Detroit. And the heart of the city of Detroit is fucked up. It is. I was just there. It is. You go into my grandmother's neighborhood where wealthy, middle class African Americans lived, worked, and played. That whole area, she, at one point in time, she could barely get a street light working over there on her street and near her home. The flooding, the sewage system is horrible. When it rains, it floods, turns into a river. Whole freeways in the city of Detroit turns into a literal lake. Rivers, lakes. That's what it turns into, because the city is not pouring money into the people or where the people at. The city is taking that money to put in certain areas of the city that looks or will appear beautiful on your TV screen or in a magazine. But where the people live, where Tatiana probably lived, was a terrible. So when Mayor Dugan was up there the other day talking about, oh, we failed this young lady, you sure did, but you're not. Tatiana is just a symbol of what the city of Detroit and its leadership has failed. She's a symbol. Because there are probably, I'm not going to say 1 million, because I don't even know if the city of Detroit has 1 million people living there. But I want to say this, there are millions of Tatianas across the city, across cities in the United States. She's not the only one. She's not the only mother that's sleeping in her car or her van or her SUV with her children. She's not the only one. She's not the only one that has been failed by her children's father and her children's father's family. Let me throw them under the bus as well. Because there's no way that a young lady that has children by my son, there's no way that I'm not going to be in contact with her. There is no way that I'm not going to be checking on my grandchildren. So let's throw them under the bus too. When that young man said, oh, she didn't call my family up and ask them for any help. Why wasn't his family in contact with her and those kids? Let's really get down to that. Explain it. Do you know this dude had the audacity to make a GoFundMe? Whatever for? You said you were working. You was at the gym when she contacted you and told you that your children had frozen to death. See, and this also takes me into a whole different other story or realm of the fathers not being involved situation. If you are a dad and you have children, there is no reason why your children should be homeless and you are living and breathing and operating in a home or in a place where you are comfortable. Your children should be enjoying the same level of comfort that you are. There is no way this fool should have been enjoying any type of heat or warmth if his kids weren't. And I don't care what anybody says. If you are a man and you have children, your children should be living just like you, if not better than you. And that's how he failed his own children. And those tears that he was crying last night on the television screen, what were those tears? Were those tears of grief or were those tears of guilt? Were those tears of a guilty conscience? Were those tears of regret because they should have been? Child, that's all I got to say about that. But here's my concluding thing is that we have to do better. We really have to do better as a culture. We got to do better as a people. We got to do better. We really, really do. We got to look out for each other. That's why I'm saying all this stuff about, oh, we're going to boycott Target. We're going to boycott Walmart. We're going to boycott Aldi. We're going to boycott, whatever else. How you going to do that if you don't come together? How you going to do that if you don't have a plan? If we're sitting back and allowing children to freeze to death in a van and unwilling to take on the responsibility that we as a village should take on for their deaths, then how in the world are we going to be able to come together and boycott white supremacy? If we can't take care of the most vulnerable of us all, then how in the world are we going to defeat something that has targeted all of us? How? Make it make sense. Make it make sense. Now, of course, my story turned into a success story. Okay, because everyone that's homeless, as I said before, they're not homeless because they're dope fiends. Okay, they're not homeless because they're alcoholics. A lot of people are homeless because life circumstances place them in a situation where they have lost their shelter. My husband and I were able to build a better life for ourselves and for our daughter. And we were able to eventually buy another home. Okay, the city worked with us and we were able to get some grants going on and we were able to buy another home. That was our success story. And then I had 3 other children and we built a life and eventually we moved down to Florida. But we were able to overcome it. A lot of people are not able to overcome it. A lot of people don't have the tools necessary to overcome homelessness. And homelessness is also hopelessness. A lot of people don't have the fortitude to do that. And the couch advocates and keyboard warriors who are attacking this young lady, if she reads the comments and she reads the posts on social media about her, she will not be able to overcome hopelessness or homelessness. She won't be able to overcome it because that's going to continue to press her down. That's what's going to happen. But I hope that there are some people, good-hearted people, who come into her life and help her. Give her that support. Help her be able to gain hope again and have faith in humanity. Because that's the only way she's going to be able to conquer hopelessness, conquer homelessness, and be able to deal with the grief that she's feeling because of the loss of her children. Because believe me, the grief that she feels over the loss of her children is huge. It's great. So listen, tell me what your thoughts are. Please do not hesitate to drop down in the comment section. Do not forget to press that thumbs up button. Consider subscribing to the channel. And if you are already a subscriber, a returning Tiny Studio guest, please consider becoming a sustainable member of Simply Nails Tiny Studio, because over there in the members only lounge, we have a great time. I talk about a lot of things that I do not talk about here publicly. I talk about them over in the members only lounge. So if you would like to hang out with me over there and get to know me a little better and have some conversations with me, do not hesitate to head on over to the lounge and hang out with us. This month for Black History Month, it's $1.99 to join. So I'm your girl Nail, and I'll see you next time here in the Tiny Studio. Bye-bye.